Hello, and welcome to the Mountain Mystic Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Hemphill, and I'm so happy to be here with you today as we get to dive in and continue our exploration and practice focused on this theme that I'm speaking to as embodied living, this ability to be present in connection to self, a path, a practice, a process of becoming ever more deeply in connection to self, a path which, as I've come to know it, as I've experienced it and continue to teach it to others, it is a path that not only connects us inward into our own selves, but also outward into the lives that we live in connection to the communities that we are part of, in connection to the ecosystems that we are part of. And in this way, what we are here doing is by learning to become more present in felt, conscious connection to self. Not only are we doing the beautiful work that is healing and transforming our own selves, our own bodies, our own nervous systems, our own minds, our own experience of life on this planet, but we are also becoming part of a growing community of conscious individuals that are connecting to the world we are all part of, that are connecting to this greater web of life that we are all part of, a great web of life here on planet Earth that I know we are all aware of needs a lot of health, right? I come to you from a space of observation, of knowing that life on planet Earth at this time as a whole is really deeply hurting. And I believe the root cause of this, and I make this statement after, a decade of really making this observation and just doing all I can to get to the root of, why are things the way they are here and now today? And going down one rabbit hole after the next, really searching for the root. Why are things the way they are these days? And coming to the conclusion that at the root, what exists is this disconnection that we've been actively taught, right? We've been actively taught to disconnect from self. We've been actively taught, do not trust our bodies, We've been actively taught, do not connect with our bodies, do not trust our bodies. We've been taught that our bodies are like these machines that are just these things that are supposed to work in service for some greater good that we are here doing. And we've been taught to disconnect from nature because for some narrative, humans are supreme over nature, and therefore, just like our own bodies, nature itself is just to be used for our own good. And it's a narrative that expands towards other human beings, other living beings, right? This disconnection. We live in a world of disconnection. And here in this space, what I have for you is a path of reconnection, of ever deepening connection into that which already is, that which is here and alive, present, real, and true. So that's what we're doing here. We are being in practice. We are hanging out in teachings and stories, all focused on this ability to reconnect and deepen into connection, again, with self, for all that we are, these beautiful bodies that we have and are, all the different aspects of self, our nervous systems, our minds, all these different parts of self. And through this space, calling upon these beautiful bodies that we have, these bodies that are designed to connect into the world around us. We have these beautiful sensing bodies that are able to be open to perceive the world around us, to connect with the world around us in all these ways, most of which we've forgotten, most of which, us here in our modern world have never been taught how to open to all these ways we can connect with the world around us. So here in this introduction, just a little bit more of expanding into the heart of what we are doing here on this podcast. So if you're into, healing self, healing the world we are all a part of, but not just healing, more than this, opening to the beautiful potential that is here to call in joy, call in deep fulfillment, really experience the beauty and the magic and the wonder that is here for us to experience as we do the really important work that is healing and transforming our own lives, the planet we live on. Well, that's up for you here. And with that, just a little note, if you're on board and haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, help me to grow this beautiful community of individuals that are forming together here. A couple quick notes here as we're just getting started. If you want to dive deeper or perhaps explore other ways that I'm coming to you, our Stillness Speaks meditation program, the doors are still open as of the time I'm recording this here at the beginning of January. I'm only going to be keeping those doors open for another couple weeks so that we can really create the container for individuals who are going to be traveling through this program with me at this time. So if you're here listening in the first couple weeks of January, feel free to go check out that Stillness Speaks program. Stillness.forestbody.com should get you there. This is a program that is devoted to really cultivating stillness within. It is a art and skill and really important space that I believe is truly important for all individuals. And it's something that most of us just don't have here in the modern world, a modern world that, keeps us just kind of stuck in this outward orientation where we're just stuck being moved by, the forces surrounding us, all the have to do's and have to be's, kind of pushing us, moving us from one moment to the next. And I truly believe it's of utmost importance for each of us to be able to find our grounding, create some space, cultivate that inner stillness within. This is the space from which all the skillful action arises, that skillful action, that ability to discern, to know truth from bullshit, right? How important is that in this modern world of ours? The ability to take in information from outside, whether that's through our communities, our friends, our families, books, the news, social media, right? We're always taking in information from outside. To integrate it with all that is alive within and from the space to make decisions, to take action upon these decisions. So that's a little look into what's alive for you in our Stillness Speaks program. You can find out more, listen to a video about me talking about this program, inviting you into some practice over on that page. Again, stillness.forestbody.com. What else? What else? What else? My Substack newsletter, that community, that beautiful space over there. You can join me in the new year. I'm doing a cool new thing where I'm coming to you, not necessarily daily, because I'm not really that kind of person that can do the same thing every day, but getting in a routine, right? Doing something regularly. Doesn't have to be every day, but it does have to be some sort of routine. So I'm going to be coming to you in this way. Think about maybe 5 times a week receiving an email, a notification from me, reminding you, guiding you into what is my most favorite practice because it is so simple yet so powerful. The breath practice that I'm sure we'll be doing sometime in this podcast, but over on Substack, if you go subscribe, there's a free option, there's a paid option. You can hang out with me over in a space that's more devoted to the written word. Again, over there, I'll be guiding you in practice and be bringing you focused teachings on this same theme, embodied living, this embodied spirituality, this ability to be grounded, present, centered, connected within self, and through this path in connection to the world we're all part of. All right, there's other spaces to hang out with me too. You can check the show notes if you want to explore some of the other spaces you can connect with me. But at this point, I want to guide us into today's episode. So, what I have for you today is some conversation, some teaching, some practice focused on this theme that honestly, it's one I am personally being worked in at this moment, dealing with a particular challenge in my life right now. One of those, situations that arise in life where I'm just like, God, wanting to throw every sort of curse word in here because it just sucks. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't want to be in this situation I have found myself in. Yet here I am. Here I am doing the best I can with it. And in this space, returning to a teaching, a practice that was handed to me through different teachers with their different variations. And I wanted to bring it to you. And what it is this ability to be present with what is, for all that it is, for whatever it is. This ability to be present, right? How often do we hear people talking about the importance of being present, right? Being present to reality, being present to what is. Well, what happens when what is present just kind of really sucks, What happens when the experience that presents itself isn't one that we would choose if we had it our way. And in yoga, a lot of the Eastern traditions, they would speak to this as aversion, right? When an experience arises that we are averse to. So it's our tendency to push it away. So the other side of this would be like attachment, or when something good, something pleasant arises and we cling to it. And both of these sort of fall on a spectrum that take us away from being present in life. We push away that which we are averse to. We cling to that which we want or like. And both of these are different ways that we disengage from felt present connection to reality. And what we are here doing in this space, on this podcast, and in all the spaces I show up is teaching how we become more present with reality, how we find ourselves in felt present connection to the here and now. And a big, big, big part of this, it honestly might be one of the greatest challenges of our era, is learning how to be present with that which we are averse to. And just think, right? How often does an experience arise in your life that you don't like? So you are immediately doing anything you can to change the subject, get yourself somewhere else, distract yourself, right? Think about that, reaching for your phone, scrolling through social media, anytime something pops up that you're like, no. So, that quick distraction, get you away from it. And this is just the way we are programmed in this world. We are programmed for distraction. We are programmed with this pattern to so quickly, so rapidly, all the time, moving our attention onto the next thing because we don't know how and we don't want to be present with what is. And, sometimes this is skillful, right? There's a skill, a discernment in knowing, okay, this thing is arising. This is not skillful to have my attention here, so I need to move my attention elsewhere, right? This is different than what I'm talking about here. If someone walks into the room and has this terrible energy and is just ranting and throwing things my way, no, I don't want to take that in. I don't want to be present to that. So I'm going to shift my attention elsewhere. What we're talking about here is when those things in life arise. And often it's the case that what arises is within, right? Those feelings that maybe we would stick a word like negative to, or painful, unpleasant, those feelings that arise. And there's a reason they are arising. They are arising because they are asking for your attention. So I think about the last few years, I've, for the most part, finally moved out of this space in 2024. Hallelujah. Finding myself in a different space now, but, really spending my time for a few years there in this state of just crippling anxiety, right? I speak to this as this like fire that would just burn within me, this fire that, consumed my thoughts, made it really difficult to focus, and was this really unpleasant sensation within. Again, it's easiest for me to really speak to it as like this fire that would burn down in like my lower chakra areas and kind of rise up. And, it felt like it was just always pulling me down, and it would arise, right? And as it would arise, I would have to face this question of, am I present to it or do I push it away? And, right, there's a discernment piece here because we can't always be present to all the things that are arising in our world, right? We have to be discerning. We have to choose where we place our attention, where we hold our consciousness. And this is a skill. This is an art, right? There's no right or wrong way to do it. This is the embodied path, is learning, choosing. Where do you place your attention? What are you present to? Because we can't be fully present to everything all the time. We have to choose. And I believe that it is our choices that determine our life. I'm laughing because I think there's a Dumbledore quote in there. Things show up all the time. They arise around us. They arise within us. And life unfolds as a series of our choices. where are we placing our attention? Where are we allowing ourselves to hold our consciousness? And through this, where are we allowing our life force to flow? So using my example, right? This fire, this crippling anxiety mixing with this fire that just burned within me for all those years, right? Finding myself in a space of trying to live my life, trying to be present to the work I had to do, the people around me, while also knowing that, okay, this is here for a reason. And there are times in life when it shows up, really asking for my full attention and learning to give myself that time, that space where I could fully go within, be present with it to the degree that was right, that served on that day, right? And here I'm going to bring up a really big, important point. So if you have, found yourself kind of tuning out, now's a really good moment to really tune back in, bring your full attention here and now, because what we're speaking to is, on this thread of being able to perceive, be present to, feel what lives within. We have to understand that this is a process that takes time. And because we have been patterned and programmed not to do this, the reality is that we have a lot of defenses, right? We have a lot of defenses around feeling within. And some of those defenses actually really serve, right? Some of those defenses are there because if we were to go in and feel it all, it would be too much. It would consume us, and that wouldn't be helpful. And also we have to recognize that some of those defenses, well, it's time for them to fall away because there are things within that we are ready to feel, we are ready to be present to. So again, here, recognizing that this is a process that we go through over time. We take our time here. We take our time as we turn in with care to be present to what is here for me to feel, to sense, to perceive consciously, to know, to otherwise be present to in a way that serves. Because in this moment, you are grounded enough, you are safe enough to feel it, to know it, to be present to it, only to the degree that you are truly grounded enough to feel it. So here we have this term grounding, right? And if you know me, you know that this is one of my favorite terms. This is one of my favorite practices, grounding, finding our grounding. When I, formally teach a subject, when I formally teach my embodiment practice, grounding is step one. Grounding, that feeling of safety, that feeling of present connection. I am here now in this ground I stand on, present in self, present in connection to the physical ground you stand on in each moment. And in this experience, being held in presence. So as soon as we enter an experience where we feel ourselves being taken out of the present moment, right? This is an ungrounding. And what our aim is here, right? In this being present to what is, there is this ask that we stay grounded, right? So to what degree can you be present with something means how well can you stay grounded? So again, with our example of turning inward, there is something that is arising. For me, what I'm familiar with is this anxiety, right? This anxiety that kind of takes me up and out of my body. It takes me up into my head. There is a spinning, sometimes a spiraling, and it takes me out of the present moment. So when this sensation arises within me, right, and I know what it feels like, sometimes there's this ask to be present to it. The question is, how much can I stay grounded? How can I keep myself grounded as I turn my attention to the stimulus from the outside that is provoking it? Or maybe there isn't anything outside. Sometimes it just arises from within for whatever reason. And I know things are getting a little bit complicated here. Things are getting a little bit technical, maybe a little bit heady. So if you're losing yourself in this a little bit, not to worry. Feel free to, you can always go back, listen to things again. You can always, send me a email or leave a comment, asking for clarification for me to go deeper into a topic if I've lost you a little bit or if you want to know more. But for now, again, turning to this concept of grounding in connection to presence, the ability to be grounded is so connected with our ability to be present. Can you stay here connected in this moment, in connection to self, in connection to the ground you stand on? And if you haven't done any sort of these practices with me, I'll lead you through a quick one here. But just know that pretty much any practice that I do, right, any sort of guided meditation, any yoga class that I teach, it all begins with grounding. Maybe not 100% of the time, but almost always, I'm going to start an embodiment practice with grounding. So let's do it here. So taking a moment to find your seat in connection to the chair you're sitting on, or maybe you're standing, so your feet in connection to the floor beneath you. But bringing your attention to that physical felt connection, right? Feeling into the sensations with the surface holding you here in this moment. So the floor beneath you, the seat you are sitting on, and really just taking a moment to bring your full attention to those felt sensations. And, as you do this, this is especially helpful if, maybe there's 2 points of contact, like your feet and your seat. Maybe you take a moment to notice, like, which part of self feels safer, feels more grounded. Like, okay, if I bring my attention to my feet, yeah, that really helps me get present. Know that I am here on this ground I stand on. But if I do it in my seat, my sits bones, I just don't feel that same connection. Or maybe it's the opposite way. Like for me, I can really ground down into my seat, right? I really feel and experience my seat, my sit bones, my root as the root of my body. So when I, meditate, I like to be seated, cross-legged, really sink into that felt connection of my root into the floor or into the cushion or the chair. But play with this for yourself. We're all a little bit different. Where in your body, how do you feel that sense of grounding as we speak to this, just super simple but not always easy experience that is feeling in felt. This is a sensory experience, feeling into that connection with the physical surface holding you here. So that's step 1. You can take half a second to do it. You can take a few breaths to do it. You can take, 30 seconds to do it. Play around with however much time you need to really bring yourself present to this space. And once you are here, calling upon the breath. So the breath, right, this primary breath practice I teach, being a grounding breath. So finding your breath down in your body. There's all these different ways we can connect with our breath. You might find your breath sort of in like the bridge of your nose, right between your eyes. As you breathe in, maybe you connect with your breath as you exhale out through your mouth. That has its use, but that's not what I'm guiding you to do. Finding your breath down in your body. So feeling into the expansion of your ribs as you inhale in. And exhaling, so letting it go, relaxing your body, maybe releasing your shoulders, letting go of any tension that you're holding as you exhale. Then the next inhale, big breath in, again, feeling into that expansion of your rib cage. Maybe you feel all the way into the expansion of your abdomen. And just allowing this breath to lead you into your exhale. Again, I really like the exhale as this invitation, holding this intention to release, to let go. Let go of any tension, any holding, any thoughts that are taking up space, that just don't need to be here. They just don't serve. So the exhale, this letting go, this releasing. And continuing to breathe these deep, grounded breaths, with each breath becoming a little bit more present and felt connection down in your body. Letting the breath guide you inward, letting your breath guide you downward. And here, just letting yourself explore. Is there an area in your body that really helps you feel grounded? Maybe it's in this full 3-dimensional expansion of your chest. Maybe it's deeper down into your abdomen. Maybe it feels good to breathe all the way down into your root, right? So just as we started with feeling into that felt connection with the ground, with the surface beneath you, can you breathe all the way down into this connection? Is this space where you feel most grounded? So if I have any sort of advice, any one practice to give the world, it's this. Can we get into a routine of breathing deeply down into self? Because with this breath, what we're doing is we're slowing down, we're disconnecting from the chaos of the world, we are becoming present to self, we are becoming grounded, present, centered in self. And in this slowing down, what we're doing is creating space from which we can be skillfully open to what is here. Right? And again, recognizing that this is a process. Maybe you found this really easy, really nurturing. Maybe it feels really good for you to take these breaths. Or maybe you're someone like me that, found myself with an awful lot of defenses and really intense energies within. And, I had to take this really slow. It took me a long, long time to be able to breathe as deeply and as freely as I do today. And it's not that every day I find the same experience within. Some days I'm walking through life and I realize that, those anxious fires have returned. And so with this practice, it really takes some effort. It really takes some willpower to get myself to take these deep breaths. But when I do them in a way that, gives myself the grace that is needed, I always find myself walking away, feeling more grounded, more spacious. So here I find myself, we're here talking about these grounding breaths, and I'm starting to use this word, space, right? And this is, what we shall call step 2 of the embodiment path, the embodiment practice that I teach, right? So step 1 is grounding, which we just did. Step 2 is creating space. So creating space, creating a container, creating a vessel for that which is here, right? What is showing up in your life, in your body, that wants you to create the space for it? And this is counter again to the way that so many of us live life, right? When we live life in the way as most of us modern humans have been taught to do, is we're just racing from one thing to the next, right? It's like we're caught up on this wheel, this great, messy, chaotic wheel that has us like running from one thing to the next. And in this, it's like this feeling of suffocating. It's like there is no space, right? When we're just racing from one moment to the next, not only are we often ungrounded, but it's like there's no space. There's no space to fill life with our consciousness. There's no space for us to bring in our skillful intention. So step 2, right? As we find ourselves grounded, we are present here and now, and we know that we are present here and now. We're connected into self because we're taking these conscious breaths. We're connected to self at this moment here in time. And with our breath, there's this slowing. There's this slowing down. And in slowing down, we're detaching from this crazy, chaotic wheel that so much of humanity is caught up on. We're detaching from it. We're finding ourselves grounded, present, centered here and now. And in this way, we are creating space. And in this creation of this space, the question is, what are we going to fill it with? So going back to my example, right? I'm walking through life. I have this, tendency to get consumed by this internal fire, this anxious, fiery energy that was just consuming me for all these years. I'm walking through life. And now I'm becoming present, centered, grounded, and I'm creating space. And the question is, how do I want to fill this space? Do I want to bring my attention to that which is here within, this anxious, fiery energy? Is there something here? Is there something beneath it? Is there some reason, something within me? A wound, a pattern, a trigger, something here that wants to reveal itself in this space I've created. Doing this in a way that I am grounded, right? Only filling this space with what is right and true to be revealed to me today. Calling upon my breath to stay grounded, to stay present. Or in an alternative scenario, maybe that whole practice was here to get me grounded and centered so that I can fill this space with a task that I need to be present to, right? Life is this great playground of experience. And in any moment, we have all these energies that are showing up around us through tasks, through sound, through image. And there are all these energies that are rising within through sensation, emotion. And the question is, where do we place our attention? As we find ourselves grounded, present, centered, the question is, where are we placing our attention? What are we allowing our consciousness to be filled with? And this is the great question of life. Cultivating discernment around this question, I believe, is the greatest task of each of our lifetimes. Especially here in this modern world where, we live in an attention economy. Your attention is so precious and everyone wants it. Everybody wants your attention. You developing skill around where you allow your attention to go is the greatest service you can give to yourself and this world we live on. You doing it in a way that you can be discerning. Is my attention best served on something outside of me? Is my attention best served on something within me? This is one of the greatest services you can give yourself. Cultivate the skill. It will change everything for you. Whew. Okay, getting a little fired up about that, but I'm so passionate about it. I believe in this so deeply. Again, especially in this world we live on. We live in an attention economy. How many billionaires are making more and more billions of dollars off of taking people's attention away from themselves? Take the power of your attention back. Develop the skill around where you place your consciousness, what you allow yourself to be filled with. This is empowerment. This is empowerment for the modern human being. It will change your life. It will change this world we live in. Okay, so weaving back in, I want to start to close for today because, here we're in this topic that has to do with this embodied living, this being present, centered, focused, and self, cultivating discernment, cultivating the ability to place our attention, our consciousness, where it is most skillful to do so, in the way that is most skillful to do so. And I could just talk about this forever. So I want to loop us back to, I opened this part of the podcast today by speaking to how I'm dealing with something right now that just really sucks to deal with. And exactly what I mean by that is I'm dealing with this cough, right? This cough that just keeps coming in waves. And I think I'm on the third wave of it right now. And it's been just 2 months of me dealing with this cough. And if you know me, there's two things that really describe me. One, I am a big outdoor athlete. I am an ultra marathoner, and the new ultra running season is starting, and I just have to be out training right now, and I can't. And the other thing I teach is this breath work and meditation. And this cough shows up in my life, and it's 2 months of it. It'll kind of go away, and then it comes back, and it just seizes me. And it's what the hell is going on here? Why can't I kick this thing? This is terrible. It, keeps me up at night. I can't sleep well. It's so aggravating. And the two things that I consider most important in this life I'm living, this ultra running, rock climbing, right? This outdoor athlete that I am. And also this ability to go deep into meditation, do this breath work. I can't do them. And it's oh my God, what is here? What is this? What is this? And there's an aversion there, right? I don't like this. I don't want this. So there's this tendency to push it away, to throw curse words at it. Ugh, I don't want this. But it keeps coming back. And it keeps coming back. And so I'm sitting in this space, sitting with all that I've learned, in my yoga teachings, my meditation teachings, my training as a priestess. And I'm turning to these teachings that I've been given by all different types of teachers that speak to the ability to be present with what is, and that speak to the power of being present to what is, for all that it is, no matter what it is. So I've been in this practice around this cough, okay, here's another coughing fit, can hardly breathe there for a minute, but coming out of it, finding myself grounded, tuning in, being present with it, bringing my consciousness to these sensations in my body, bringing my consciousness to all these patterns of thought in my mind that show up when I find myself in a coughing fit. Again, all these ughs and, oh, I don't want this, and oh, I just want to be out running. Bringing myself to be conscious, to be present to what is, and sitting with it. Sitting with it. There's this. It's funny because in one way, it's like the simplest teaching of all, right? It's the most basic, like 101 level spiritual teaching of all. And at the same time, it can be one of the most challenging spiritual teachings, right? The kind of practice I spent like a year and a half into my priestess Eden training, right? Like years and years into my formal education on this spiritual path as a teacher and as a deeply devoted student, right? There's this simultaneous, like, okay, it's like a entry-level 101 teaching, but it's also so deep and so challenging. And it's this ability to be present to what is here within you, right in front of you, whatever has shown itself, being present to it, grounded, centered, fully present to this thing, and holding it in light, holding it in love. Right? Again, I return to this, sciencey, engineering part of myself that takes up most of who I am because I've just spent like so much of my life in like this science engineering space. And anytime I go into my spiritual teacher self and I speak of love and light, there's this part of me that speaks up. It's like, what are you doing? Don't say that. But then the spiritual teacher in me speaks up and is like, no, this is everything. This is what I myself need to hear. This is what the world needs to hear. Because there's something powerful in the ability to stay grounded, focused, being so present that you're bringing your whole consciousness to something and you're holding that thing in light. You're holding that thing in love. So I'm in this practice of this cough that, again, I'm like in the third wave of this thing. Once again, it kept me up all night. I can't teach yoga tomorrow because of it. And, I can't be out running, trail running, rock climbing because of it. I can't go deep into meditation because of it. Dealing with this thing and I don't want it here. But it keeps showing up. So I turn my attention to it. I do everything I've taught you. I ground myself. I bring my attention inward and I become present to it. And it's the same practice I did, last year when I would become crippled with anxiety. I would feel these fires within me. It's the same practice I would do then. These waves of fire, these spirals of anxiety that would take me down, they would take me out. It's the same practice. I don't want you here. I don't want this to be the case. But this is what is real. This is what is true. Pushing this away isn't serving anything. Becoming present, centered, what is here. And when we do this, there's a connection. There is a connection that forms to what is real, what is true. And in this connection, this is where the magic unfolds. This is where we heal. This is where that which needs to be revealed to us is revealed to us. This is where we get clear on solutions, right? So there's a both and here because I spoke to this in an episode, about 2-3 episodes ago, the magic that unfolds when we become present to something. And there's two parts here, right? There's one, just in the moment itself, the power that is simply placing your consciousness on something. Again, simple, maybe not easy, but by simply placing your consciousness, your love-filled, light-filled consciousness on something, simply by doing this act, you begin to transform it. And also, in this act, what is revealed to you? Remember, in creating this conscious connection, we're creating space, we're creating a vessel, and that vessel can be filled. That vessel can be filled with insight. That vessel can be filled with direction. And from this space, very real, very practical action can be taken that's aligned with solutions that have the ability to solve problems, to resolve ailments, right? And in this way, again, we're speaking to this heart of what is an embodied spiritual practice, right? Spiritual because, yes, we are here talking about the power of your love-filled, light-filled consciousness, and there is a magic here. And also, this magic unfolds with very real, very physical, action-oriented steps. Often, not always. I will give it to you that sometimes that's not even needed, because sometimes all that's needed is that first piece. The magic that unfolds when you can place your consciousness in the area of your life that you've been avoiding. The magic that unfolds where simply by placing your consciousness there, you are able to heal it, you are able to transform it, because maybe all that was needed was your grounded, conscious attention. Okay, guys. I have to admit to you, talking right now isn't like the greatest thing for me. There's been a lot of pausing this recording to cough. And at this point, I'm recognizing that continuing to talk isn't what's going to serve. What's going to serve me is closing my mouth, at least to talking, going and drinking some tea, getting some rest. And I believe that'll serve you as well, because I feel quite complete. As always, there's so much more to speak to of this topic, because this topic really, really just has to do with becoming present to life in a way that is most skillful. And that is a topic that, I can spend lifetime after lifetime after lifetime speaking to. So I'm sure the next podcast will have more to speak to on the topic. I've promised you at least one more episode more fully devoted to the topic of stillness. That will be coming your way sometime in the next month. I won't promise it, because sometimes I'm guided in a different direction, but I'm still feeling that will be a really powerful and helpful episode. If the stillness theme is speaking to you and you haven't yet, join me in the Stillness Speaks event, this meditation program that I'm holding here this winter season. It is structured, it is focused on helping you cultivate a stillness meditation practice, cultivating stillness within, doing all the things that we're talking about here, finding our grounding, becoming centered, becoming present, creating space within. All right, if anything, any threads that I brought up in this episode spoke to you and you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment in the appropriate spaces. For example, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's a great place to leave a comment. If you're listening to this where you listen to podcasts, leave a review. Let us know how this podcast has served you. If you have a comment, head over to YouTube, leave a comment there, or shoot me an email directly, katie@upwardslopes.com. I want to keep you in this communication loop, and that is bidirectional. So if you have insights, if you have questions, let me know. That means that something is connecting with you. It's something that I can go deeper into. All right, gonna close out here. Gonna go make myself some tea, maybe take a nap. So much love for you, and I look forward to catching you in whatever the next space is that we find ourselves in.